Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? Well, unbelievable. Hundreds and hundreds of people have joined together at the base of the Temple Mount in coming together, of course, in the Arise and Ascend in Israel, right in the heart of Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, the area where the three religions of the apocalypse are converging at once. And of course, after Ariel was killed, the 13-year-old girl murdered brutishly in her bed by a 17-year-old Palestinian man who was then shot dead by Israeli defense forces. The mother of Ariel is one of the 17 women of the Temple Mount, and she is called for an ascension. Arise and ascend upon the Temple Mount and begin the work, she says, of building the third temple. Let me tell you what's happening this morning, what took place there. The heart of our daughter was stabbed and killed, and this is the heart of the Jewish nation, and we need to strengthen it, says the mother of the murdered victim. The heart of our daughter was stabbed and killed, and this is the heart of the Jewish nation, said Rena Ariel, the mother of the slain teen, at a rally attended by hundreds of supporters near the entrance of the Temple Mount this morning. We have to empower it. We need help to strengthen it and to strengthen the whole nation, she said. Amid the chants of Ariel, waving Israeli flags and heated speeches from those who of the Temple Mount activists, the supporters of Ariel who was stabbed to death at her home by a Palestinian terrorist on June the 30th, they demanded equal rights for Jews. In other words, right now, folks, in Israel, in Jerusalem, only Muslims are allowed to pray on the Temple Mount. Jews and Christians are forbidden, even though this is the land of Israel we're talking about. Now, also, sometimes it's sad, but it's also something that gives great power, they say, to know that in some destiny there's something we can do, not only to cry and to sit flat on the floor, but to build something that's adding new to this whole environment in Israel, added Ariel. It's not easy speaking about the Temple Mount, but we want people to discuss it with us to learn the topic. Standing near a Hebrew banner, we are all Ariel's family. They took her away from us. So we're going to double our forces to build Jerusalem, said Oren Hazan, the youngest of the Knesset members. He said that the status quo restricting Jewish visitation to the Jerusalem's holiest site is not acceptable. Quote, I think it's about time that Jews should be able to go up to the Temple Mount every day, around the clock. He said, this is the heart of the Jewish people. So look at it this way. If you took away any place in the world and said Jews cannot pray here or walk there, then that's anti-Semitism. So this is anti-Semitism. That's basically the quote. Now also, Benzai Gopstein, head of the Jewish extremist group Lahava, went much further. Here's what he said, quote, this is a Jewish place. It is a place of the Holy Temple, and the holy people who need to be here are the Jewish people, he said. And he's been investigated by police on multiple occasions of purported accusations against him and against Palestinians. But he went on to say, quote, it's not a place for anyone else. So he's a little bit more. He's saying no one else should be here but us, but Jews is what he's saying. Us, meaning himself Jewish. Myself, of course, being a Christian pastor and a Gentile at that, I have a heart for the Jewish people. I have a heart for all people. I love all people. And I realize that I don't understand. I have a hard time understanding how a nation, its own citizens, can be forbidden from a place that they would want to build and worship. In America, that just doesn't work. It doesn't compute. But I understand biblical prophecy. And yes, there was Solomon's temple, and it was destroyed by the Babylonian Empire. It was desecrated. I do know it was rebuilt. King Herod, only to be destroyed in 70 A.D. by the Roman Empire. When the Babylonians destroyed it in 586 B.C., they said it would never be rebuilt, but it was. When the Romans destroyed it in 70 A.D., they said it will never be rebuilt, but it will. Because according to Daniel's vision and dream, he sees this temple, and he also sees the abomination of desolation. And he says there will even be a covenant with many that brings this about. You can find that in Daniel 9:27. Now we know that just yesterday and the day before, a prominent Muslim leader from Turkey is calling for the rebuilding of the third temple and peace in the Middle East. That it could be up on the Temple Mount and leave the two mosques that are up there alone. And the Gentiles, the tourists, could walk around in the courtyards visiting the sites. That's the same thing, basically, that Rabbi Yehuda Glick is saying. He's proposing that the same type of thing happen. Having said that, Yehuda Glick did speak yesterday. Of course, he's not allowed to go on the Temple Mount no more because he's a member of the Knesset and nobody can. But Glick was interviewed. And here's what was said. Meanwhile, activist Yehuda Glick, who joined, of course, the Knesset last month, and I interviewed him last month, just a week or so after he became a member of the Knesset, he held back tears as he spoke of Ariel's murder. Quote, "Of course it breaks my heart," he said. "Every time I think of her parents, I get tears in my eyes. I just imagine her laying in her bed, this monster entering the house through a window and murdering her, stabbing her again and again and again." Glick added that her mother should strengthen the Jewish resolve to freely visit the Temple Mount, where Muslims are granted unlimited access 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Visitation by Jews is restricted to a few hours a day, and any form of Jewish prayer on the compound can result in detention or arrest. Now, during the final 10 days of Ramadan, non-Muslim visitation was suspended after several Jewish groups were attacked by masked Muslims who stored weapons, including rocks and metal pipes, at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, where police are forbidden from entering. Now, I had the privilege of actually looking through a hole into that mosque with my camera, and I filmed the inside of the mosque. It's on my YouTube channel, and you can check it out. I was able to pull that off by the grace of God, actually, while visiting the Temple Mount last October of 2015. Now, it's an abnormal situation. The Jews are not allowed to enter the Temple Mount freely, Glick continued to say. It's an abnormal situation. The people who are here peacefully are not protected by the police, but have to protect themselves. It's a sad situation, but our choice is how to confront these challenges that God gives us, he said. And I'm happy that we chose a peaceful path and not a path of fighting. We choose a path of adding light, not using physical power, but the strength of the light and the strength of the connection of the people of Israel to the Temple Mount. Now, during the rally, family members and close friends of Ariel were permitted to ascend the contested holy site, while hundreds of primarily Orthodox Jews waited in the hot sun for police to allow them to enter. The most appropriate thing we can do after a terrible terrorist attack is to connect to the holiest place for the Jewish people, said the chairman of the Organization for the Reestablishment of the Temple. Now, as you know, of course, the Temple Institute has already drawn out the blueprints for the temple, and even Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu brought those forward and revealed those publicly. I've been to the Temple Institute. I've walked through their entire facility there. I've looked at all of the things. Of course, the Golden Menorah sits outside and is near the Temple Mount within eye distance. But also, the golden shewbread table is inside the Temple Institute. You can go walk right up and look at it. Also, the garments of the high priest would wear. Also, the breastplate with the 12 stones for the 12 tribes of Israel. The 7 silver trumpets are in there for the priest. Everything that would go inside the temple has already been prepared and ready. Matter of fact, the temple has already been built. It's in storage, in prefabbed, and would be assembled very quickly. Yehuda Glick told me that if there was a signed agreement and a peace agreement, and the Jews were allowed to build the temple, that they could actually build it in 6 months. That it is that quick they could put it together. It would be, of course, a smaller version of Solomon's temple. And with the gold that's been discovered now in Mount Elat, according to Glick, the inside of the temple could be completely plated in pure gold with the gold they found in the hills. Another prophecy being revealed. So having said all that, Paul, what does it got to do with Christianity? Well, Christians know, of course, that we know what the prophecy says in Daniel's dream of Daniel 9:27 and what he saw of the abomination of desolation. Jesus in Matthew 24 said these words. And when asked the question about the end of the world and all of the apocalyptic signs that will happen in the end times, he says, but when you see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understandeth. Now he's talking about the Antichrist walking into the temple of God and saying that he is God. Matter of fact, Apostle Paul explains it to us in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, when he says, the wicked one, the lawless one, if you will, the son of perdition, the Antichrist, will walk into the temple of God before the worshipers of God and declare that he is God. This is, folks, the abomination of desolation. And then John the Revelator in the book of Revelation, chapter 11, shows us that the blueprint of this third temple, the size of it, and how that the courtyard is left out for the Gentiles. It's what he explains is the exact size of what the Temple Institute has and are proposing to build. They're also proposing to build it and not tear down the 2 mosques that are already up there. And so we're seeing more and more. You're watching biblical prophecy coming to pass. Now also know this, in Revelation 11, it does say that during this process, 2 witnesses of God will appear, and they will begin to preach Yeshua to be the Messiah, the coming King. And of course, it will be a powerful time in the world. They will be killed. Their bodies will be left on the streets for 3.5 days. And the Spirit of life will raise them from the dead. And the whole world will see them ascend into heaven. Earthquakes will hit the Mount of Olives and split it in half, just like Zechariah said it would in the 14th chapter of Zechariah. And 7,000 will die. And there will be a time like we've never seen before. So we are in the last days. And the prophecies are coming together quicker than I ever thought I would see. Are you serious? Are you serious? Something biblical is going on with the signs of the second coming of Christ. And so today's rally to rebuild the temple at the Temple Mount is the first time ever that this has ever happened to this degree. I'll be back with more current world events and how they relate to Bible prophecy. We're certainly living, folks, in the last days. Are you saved? Give your life to Jesus Christ. We are running out of time.